Good morning. Welcome to SimWorld Today, a November 5th Tuesday edition. We are Marsh. We are also joined by B-Ron. Good morning, B-Ron. What's going on?
Hey, Marsh. Good morning, man. It's good to be here with you on a Tuesday for a change. I'm excited to talk SimWorld with you. Let's see what's going on with it.
And of course, first being November 5th, go and vote if you are eligible and registered. So do your civic duty. We're going to start with the biggest story in sports, and that is the Golden State Warriors beating the Washington Wizards yesterday on local broadcast.
How dare
Kidding, because
you?
that's not. But killing it, man. 6-1. Wizards, that's a tough opponent to beat. No, it's the Chiefs beating the Bucks in overtime. I don't know if that's the biggest, but it's a big story. Chiefs 30-24 win. They rally back from down 7 in the fourth quarter against a Bucks team that had no offensive weapons, not named Baker Mayfield and Bucky Irvin, at their disposal. Yet they still, in awful conditions, made it close. The Chiefs survive a little bit of an injury scare and take this thing in overtime. B-Rod, give it to you. Your takeaways.
So, the Chiefs just find ways to win, and sometimes, Marsh, there's a saying it goes around out here from time to time: rather be lucky than good. I feel like the Chiefs are kind of in that department right now. We're like, sure, they're quote unquote good, but man, they just continue to find ways to win. And when you are a team that's trying to hold on to an undefeated season, you're gonna need games like this where you find ways to win in a game like this. So, good on the Chiefs for doing that, but for the Bucks, that's kind of a rough way to go when you look at that the box score. Sure, they shut them out in the third quarter, but fourth quarter came storming back 14 points. So it's tough to beat the Chiefs always, but when they're at home, even in the rain like that, that's wild, man. It's wild.
Yeah, this is a Chiefs team that is getting to 8-0 in ways that we've never seen a Patrick Mahomes team get to 8-0. They are playing elite defense, fifth in points allowed. They are not allowing opponents to score more than 20 points, 18.4. Their offense isn't good, 25 points per game, but they are winning on average by 6 points because their defense is fantastic. Now, is last night the greatest barometer to say this is why the Chiefs are a good football team? Not really. The Bucks are kind of this fool's gold team, in my opinion. They're always going to be sitting around 500, but they're never going to be much more than that. I think that the positive for the Chiefs and the dangerous part for the rest of us is that Patrick Mahomes was actually pretty good last night. Didn't throw a pick. He played exceptionally well throughout this game. He hit some of those classic Patrick Mahomes you saw on the highlight. It's kind of like fling it up 30 yards downfield and Hopkins falls underneath it. That makes me a little nervous if you're thinking about how does this team lose, because to your point, they have not been great this season. Their wins have been of the bite your fingernails kind, yet here they are 8-0 and undefeated still through their first 8 games, obviously, and winning the games that they're supposed to, and now running away in the AFC.
Yeah. Do you think they get to undefeated if they continue playing like this? I mean, finding ways
I
to
mean,
win.
look, the history tells us no, so if I say no, it's not like I'm really, going out on a limb for that one. I always hope they do. I root for greatness, obviously. Like, I don't, it's not like I'm invested in it. But I mean, I would like to see in my lifetime somebody go undefeated for an entire SWFL season. I think that'd be cool to see. Hopefully it's not a team that I despise, and I don't despise the Chiefs. But if you look at the schedule, they have one game left that you probably are concerned about. This is their schedule: Denver at home. Let's go with one of the losable games. At Buffalo, that's losable. At Carolina, no. Versus Las Vegas. Versus the Chargers. At Cleveland. Versus Houston, maybe. At Pittsburgh, maybe. At Denver. I mean, there's one game left on the schedule where you look and go, ooh, that's a tough one, and that's in 2 weeks. If they get past Denver and they're 10-0, I'm willing to start talking about it. I mean, 8-0 it's probably too early, especially now in a 17-game season. It's not quite halfway. Um, but if they get past Buffalo on the road, it's tough to say no.
If there's anybody I can see him losing to, Marsh, like you said, it'd be the Bills or the Steelers.
Yeah,
Uh, Other than that, I mean, the AFC, uh, not the West, uh, week. It's weak, so I don't see him losing to Denver or the Raiders. But crazy things have happened. They could have a bad game, one of those, and then it's a different conversation, right? But
yeah.
we'll see. I want to see it too, Marsh. I do want to see it because, like you, I'm not a hater against the Chiefs or anything. I wasn't a Patriots hater either when they were doing what they were doing. So I would like to
Yeah.
see it because I didn't see it with the Patriots. Like they got close, but they didn't quite finish the job. I want to see the
Yeah.
Chiefs do it because it hasn't happened in our lifetime. So yeah, why not, man?
All right. Well, what isn't happening right now in Milwaukee is getting wins as the Milwaukee Bucks fall to the Cleveland Cavaliers yesterday, 116 to 114. Their second straight loss to the Cavs. Both of them by one possession. They lost 114 to 113 on Saturday against Cleveland in a little home action. They are now 1-6. Their one win came on opening night. It came against the Philadelphia Sixers team that was missing both Joel Embiid and Paul George. And they've included losses to Chicago, Brooklyn, and Memphis. Memphis, the best of them, but three teams that haven't necessarily been world beaters. This is getting to the point where we start to raise alarm bells on the Milwaukee Bucks and what this basketball team is, B-Ron.
Yes, I 100% agree with you. And I wanna take it a different direction here and say that yeah, Milwaukee overall, but maybe it's time we reevaluate Doc Rivers and his stature, if that makes sense. Because when last season or when their previous coach got fired and Doc came in, they struggled out the gate too, and they struggled to win games, get any kind of consistency then too. So maybe it's a Doc Rivers situation where he's not putting the guys in the right spot they need to be in to have this team playing better than they are. Because personally, I feel like they have the talent to be better than they are right now. Sure, Lillard is winding down and that kind of thing, but still, I feel like they have the talent to be better than they are right now. So yes, alarm bells are going off for me from Milwaukee as well, and I do think a big part of that is because of Doc Rivers personally. But
I think there's got to be alarm bells because this is you don't have as great basketball teams 1-6 stretches during the year, and I've always subscribed to the thought that we have to take the beginning of a season with a little bit of caution, right? A little bit of this is all we have. This is the only piece of evidence we have. If a team goes, 4-3, we'll talk about Kansas in a sec. If you talk about the Jayhawks and you're like 4-3, this isn't that great. If they go 4-3 in January, are we bent out of shape about it, or are we just like, okay, that's just the latest stretch for them? So when you put that at the beginning of the season, and suddenly it's a talking point. The Bucks, I think, they're in that camp of it's early in the season. Is this real, or is this just the only piece of information that we have? My concern is that this is, to your point, B-Ron, which is a great one. This is the same thing. This was a Bucks team that was disappointing last season, that hasn't quite figured out their decision to trade for Damian Lillard. I wasn't a fan of the Damian Lillard trade to begin with because I don't know what the heck was wrong with Drew Holiday. You fired your coach, which 2 coaches ago, Mike Budenholzer, which I agreed with. I didn't truthfully think that he was going to be the head coach until they won that championships. I think he was on his way to being fired then before Giannis took over. But I don't know if this team is built appropriately. I think this is a team that's built on a bunch of age and a bunch of what used to be really good. We haven't seen Chris Middleton. Damian Lillard, despite having some good scoring nights recently, has also had some really bad nights, particularly on the defensive side where he was never good. Giannis is elite, but they don't have anything else. You look around the league, and I'm just going to use the Warriors as an example, only because I'm the most familiar with them and can tell you about them in much more depth than pretty much any other league team. They got like 9 dudes that are bona fide rotation guys. They're playing a 13-man rotation at points. That's not what the Bucks are. If somebody goes down for Golden State, if somebody goes down for Cleveland, Cleveland has Karis LeVert playing out of his mind. They've got Isaac Okoro. That's behind their Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Jared Allen front court. They've got Evan Mobley. Who do the Bucks have? They got absolutely nothing. If Giannis and Damian Lillard aren't playing good, There's nothing else there. And even if they are playing good, they don't have other dudes who can step up and be adequate, who can be capable, who can just be rotation caliber role players. And that's why this team is falling apart, because you're relying on 36-year-old Brook Lopez, who finally, after defying his age, is finally looking to be maybe a half step behind. You're relying on Chris Middleton, who's in his mid-30s and can't stay healthy. You're relying on Damian Lillard in his mid-30s, who's never been a good defender. And then you're relying on Giannis to just do everything else. It's not sustainable, and it's not surprising that they're down 1-6 this early in the season.
Yeah, you need a mix of the two, Marsh. You need a mix of the veteran talent and a mix of young guys who can, come in and help out. And like I said, the Bucks don't have that. They have three old guys and one elite star on the team. And if they keep up like this, their elite star isn't going to be around for a good bit of time. I'm not sure what his contract is offhand. So if he's locked in for a long contract, fine. Know what I said. But that's not going to help trying to keep a guy like Giannis around. You know what I mean? That's a problem in itself too.
Giannis has 2 years and then player option for 2027. Of course, you've seen it everywhere, the Giannis trade rumors. This is the age of their team. Giannis is 24. These are the guys that are actually getting rotation minute. Marchand Beauchamp getting a little bit of rotation. He's 24. Yeah, Giannis is 29, not 24. Pat Connaughton's 31. Your guys that are young are not making a lot of money. So it's AJ Green at 25. He's not really a difference maker. Andre Jackson, the rookie, out of 22. AJ Johnson, 19. He's making $2.7 million. Again, draft pick. Damian Lillard is 34. Chris Middleton's 33. Brook Lopez is 36. DeLon Wright, who you're asking to be a rotation player, is 32. Gary Trent Jr., who you're asking to be a rotation player, is about their youngest good rotation player at 25. There's just not a lot of dudes in this rotation. Taurean Prince is 30. Bobby Portis is 29. There's just not guys that are sitting there and saying, we can rely on this dude. He's been around the block a couple times, and now they're 1-6. All right, let's head to SimWorld U, where we had a great game last night. Kansas and Missouri in the border showdown, and a huge rally for the Kansas Jayhawks. Win this thing 94-87. It was Charles Pinkard leading the Kansas Jayhawks in scoring. He had 21. Nas Hall with 20. And a huge win for the Jayhawks to get back to 500. But an interesting one in the way they went about it, B1.
Yeah, they had to come back, and I thought that because throughout that first half, Missouri kind of held them at bay, and I was like, oh man, is this one of those games where Kansas just never gets it rolling, and Missouri ends up pulling away anyway? It's not what happened. It ended up being the other way around. Kansas ended up finding a way to get it rolling, and once they did, they were difficult to stop. Marsh, and for all the struggles that Kansas has gone through to start the season. This is similar to Oklahoma in a sense that this is what they can be when they're playing really well and firing on all cylinders. I feel like so this was an impressive win for me from Kansas's standpoint. But Missouri kind of ran out of gas. I feel like on the other side of that too.
Yeah, they ran out of gas because Japheth Towns couldn't play for most of the second half. He left with a wrist injury. We'll see what that ends up being. He ends up with just 19 minutes, and I think that's a big part of this thing because Towns is good, +4 in Towns minutes. And then you lose this game by 7, and all that loss was in the second half where there were stretches where they just stopped getting offense. And that was the biggest thing. There's a stretch. It was the midway point of the second half, and the offense just disappeared. This was a close game. Kansas had been pretty much, to your point, behind. Missouri had done a good job of keeping them at 6-8. They got it to 3 late. Kansas gets back into this thing early in the second half, and then it was kind of back and forth there for a minute, and then it was the stretch that got it up to double figures at one point for Kansas. All of that came without Japheth Towns, so it's difficult to really discredit Missouri here because I thought David Draffin looked really good. He looked unstoppable. There was really no one that Kansas could throw at him, and I think that's going to be a potential weakness for the Jayhawks. If you're going up, and that's David Draffin is not necessarily a world-beating big man, but how are you going to stop them? But the answer to me was you finally got a big game out of Charles Pinkard and Nas Hall, and it came on a night where Madison Miles wasn't that great, but it was a night where I thought Kansas did a great job of flowing to what they needed to flow to, right? Charles Pinkard operating both on and off the ball. We haven't seen that a lot this season. That was a big night for him. Nas Hall being aggressive. They need that out of Nas Hall. What they got, though, was just a complete game for pretty much everybody. And that comes on the heels of Bill Self calling out this team for pretty much nobody showing up. And that's big, that this team gets called out publicly and makes a response like that, because Dino Ahern was unstoppable when he was on the floor. Jarvis Woodson was putting up, I mean, Jarvis Woodson, 8 points, 10 boards, 3 assists in 14 minutes. He was plus 18. I mean, that's insane to be plus 18 in 14 minutes. You're just plus 1 every single minute you're out there. That they haven't been getting up until this point in the season, which was a huge win, in my opinion, for them to pull that one off, B-Ron.
Yeah, exactly. And to go back to Dino for a minute, he played really well defensively, and there were some times in that game, Marsh, where you and Rick were commenting on Ahern's defense on bigger players.
Yeah.
I don't have his height. I don't have his height here in front of me, but
6
that
foot.
was impressive. 6'1"?
6'0".
Oh, 6 feet. Wow. Yeah, 6 feet going up against guys who are 6'10", 6'8", whatever. That's I don't know how that happens, but good defense from him in that regard.
It shouldn't be. But no, Dino Ahern was impressive. I mean, he was plus 15 in 15 minutes, so there's no slash 13 points. He was the spark plug, Lou Williams type of score for them last night, in a way that they haven't seen. So a complete game finally for Kansas. They get to 500. That to me is the biggest takeaway. They actually got everyone involved. And to your point, it's the promise of what can be for that squad when everybody's clicking, everybody's rolling. And you can make the argument they weren't all clicking. Madison Miles did shoot 58%, 16 points. So really, actually, not that bad of a game. He just kind of casually got to his 16.
It wasn't allowed 16.
Not at all. That's partially because Charles Pinkard had allowed 21 for Kansas.
The freshman, yeah.
All right, let's get to our SimWorld U wrap up, folks. We had 5 games in action on Monday night. Let's tip this thing off in Florida, where Arizona, number 18th ranked Wildcats, headed to the Seminoles, and it would be Garrett Hart, a massive three-pointer, his only of the game, but he finishes with 23 right there to beat Arizona 79-76. Wake Forest hosted Oklahoma at home, and in a defensive slugfest in which no one shot above 37%, it'd be Wake Forest getting a 56-50 win. Arkansas traveled to Marquette, no lack of offense here, 77-47 win for the Razorbacks. They moved to 7-3. Maryland, number 11, their third game of the season, traveling to Baylor. Baylor gets a huge win, 62-55. Number 24 ranked Bears making a case for a higher ranking. And then San Diego State on the road. Darian Hunt with 19. Dre Ryder 14-10. They take down Iowa State 80-54. Iowa State now 1-7 on the season. All right, we're back tonight on Tuesday with plenty of action on CBS Sports. We got number 1 Kentucky versus number 7 UConn. Case to be made. That's the game of the week, although it's not. And then number 12 Butler and number 2 Duke battling it out as well. So plenty of big matchups today on CBS. B-Ron, as always, great to see you. We will see you again tomorrow morning, I do believe. And then we'll see you tonight on CBS, where we're going to get some basketball action in SimWorld U. Thanks for joining us here on SimWorld TV, the only place you can see the game, be the game.
This has been a presentation